Hi there, and welcome to the weekly Asylum and Immigration Reform Update, where I share with you 5 recent stories of interest to asylum seekers and those who want to stay current on immigration news. This week, we're discussing
prominent immigrant rights activist Jeanette Vizguerra is detained by ICE in surprise enforcement action in Colorado. Navy warship USS Gravely has been deployed to U.S. Mexico border in unprecedented military immigration enforcement move. Trump administration revives controversial family detention facilities in South Texas for immigrant parents and children. Trump administration has deported immigrants to El Salvador despite federal judge's order blocking removals. Trump voter's Peruvian wife was detained by ICE at airport checkpoint despite following legal immigration processes.
I'm Brian Manning. I used to be an asylum officer with the government, but now, as an asylum lawyer, I help immigrants all over the country to secure their future in America through asylum. It's my pleasure to bring you asylum and immigration reform updates each week right here on the Political Asylum Lawyers YouTube channel. Okay, let's get to the news. First up,
prominent immigrant rights activist Jeanette Vizguerra, who leads the Metro Denver Sanctuary Coalition, was seized in a surprise raid by Immigration and Customs Enforcement in Aurora, Colorado on Monday night. Local advocacy organizations report ICE appears determined to deport Vizguerra to Mexico. According to family members, she was intercepted outside her target workplace and is being denied communication with her loved ones from the detention facility. Vizguerra previously sought refuge at Denver's First Unitarian Church for 3 years after facing deportation threats in 2017. She escaped persecution in Mexico City in 1997 with her husband and eldest daughter, later raising 4 children. U.S. Senator Michael Bennet condemned the action, emphasizing that Vizguerra is a mother and pillar in her community and demanded her immediate release. Community members have launched a fundraiser to reunite her with her family while demonstrators gathered outside the Aurora ICE Processing Center Tuesday morning.
And next up, for update number 2.
The Trump administration has dramatically intensified its immigration enforcement efforts by redirecting the USS Gravely, a guided missile destroyer previously tasked with Middle East operations, to patrol the U.S. Mexico border. The warship set sail from Virginia's Naval Weapons Station Yorktown on Saturday, entering territory normally reserved for the U.S. Coast Guard rather than Navy vessels. White House officials confirmed the deployment is part of the military's response to President Trump's executive orders on border security. The vessel will host a Coast Guard law enforcement detachment specializing in maritime enforcement operations, including apprehending migrants at sea. U.S. Northern Command, which oversees the continental U.S. and surrounding waters, justified the move as bringing maritime capabilities to address critical capabilities gaps in support of homeland security and customs and border protection. Immigration advocates and security experts have denounced this unprecedented military deployment, noting that border crossings are at record lows and suggesting the move is largely symbolic rather than addressing actual security needs at the primarily land-based 1,954-mile border.
All right. Time for our third immigration update.
The Trump administration has resurrected the practice of detaining immigrant families together, bringing back into service facilities in South Texas that can hold thousands of parents and children, the New York Times reports. After being shuttered during the Biden administration, 2 detention centers in Karnes and Dilley are now being recommissioned to accommodate families who have entered the U.S. without documentation. Families have already begun arriving at one facility where multiple households are crowded into rooms with 4 to 8 bunk beds and shared bathrooms. Unlike previous administrations that primarily detained recent border crossers, the current enforcement efforts are targeting immigrants who have established lives and community connections in the U.S. Human rights organizations have denounced the practice as inhumane, with children's rights lawyer Leisha Welch noting that detained children report they rarely go outside and see the sun, that they're cold, don't have toys, and are left in filthy clothing. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem attempted to justify the policy, suggesting families could avoid detention by voluntarily returning to their home countries, aligning with the administration's broader strategy to discourage family migration through strict enforcement measures.
And moving right along, update number 4.
The Trump administration has expelled hundreds of immigrants to El Salvador in direct contradiction of a federal judge's temporary block on removals. The deportations were carried out under the Alien Enemies Act of 1798, an obscure wartime provision targeting Venezuelan gang members. When Judge James Boasberg issued his order, 2 planes with immigrants were already in the air. The administration insists it didn't refuse to comply with the court order, claiming the planes were already beyond U.S. territory. Trump defended the controversial action, describing the immigrants as bad people and the situation as a time of war. The immigrants were sent to El Salvador's notorious CCOT facility. Legal experts emphasize the Alien Enemies Act has only been used 3 times in U.S. history during actual declared wars. Critics express grave concern the law could be misused to deport any Venezuelan citizen without due process. Judge Boasberg has scheduled a hearing for Friday to address this apparent breach of judicial authority.
And finally, our 5th immigration update for this week.
A Wisconsin man who voted for Donald Trump now faces the harsh reality of the immigration policies he supported as his Peruvian wife languishes in an ICE detention center. Camila Munoz was intercepted at an airport checkpoint while returning from their Puerto Rico honeymoon, despite actively pursuing legal permanent residency through her marriage to Bradley Bartell. She exemplifies a growing trend of non-criminal immigrants being swept up in enforcement actions, including several other women married or engaged to U.S. citizens who were similarly detained at airport checkpoints in February. Immigration advocates warn that anyone without citizenship or permanent residency faces heightened risk under current enforcement priorities, even when following legal immigration processes. Bartell, who once championed Trump's promises to target criminal illegal immigrants, expressed shock at his wife's detention, saying, "I never thought it would happen to us." The couple's savings for a home have now been redirected to legal fees as Munoz remains in a Louisiana detention facility at a taxpayer cost of $282 per day.
And that wraps up this week's immigration news. If you want to win asylum in the United States, then you should call my office today. We help people all over the country, so it doesn't matter where you are. Call us now to schedule an Asylum Strategy Session so that we can help you secure your future in America through asylum. Again, I'm Brian Manning, and it's an honor to serve you in your immigration journey.